Okay, folks, I wanted to show you how to connect to your server using FTP, File Transfer Protocol. Specifically, I'm going to do this using a program called Cyberduck. So, I'm doing this on the Mac. Cyberduck is cross-platform, but regardless, I'm going to go into my Applications folder on a Mac and launch Cyberduck. As a reminder, any FTP program works basically the same way. You can use whichever one you want. This is the one I'll always use, though. And under Open Connection, this big button, basically, I'm going to click that. We've got 3 fields here. 1, 2, 3. The first is the server, and the next 2 are your username and password. So here's the good news, is this is the easy part. Your server is always, for everyone, going to be student.elon.edu. Oops. You are encouraged to spell it correctly. You can skip over everything you see in an FTP page like this other than server, username, password. That is, don't change any of these settings, the port, anything you're unsure of, just don't worry about it. In terms of the username and password, they will be your standard username and password for Elon, whatever you use for your email. It should work fine. So those would be the credentials. My account, since I am faculty, will be, instead of student.elon.edu, it is fac staff. So let me try that. Obviously, you don't do that. You will just keep your student.elon.edu. So I'm going to click Connect. Okay, mine connected immediately. Now, if you're following along with me and you try this and you got messages from Cyberduck, it's probably okay. One message that you might get would say, it would ask what type of connection you want to do, FTP or SFTP. That's referring to the security or how secure the connection is. To be frank, it doesn't really matter. You could just hit OK or yes or whatever it says. Now, if you get an error message, you'll want to try all those settings again. As a few common errors, there's no www here. There's no http here. It's just student.elon.edu. And again, that's the same for everybody. Also, don't append this with your username like /bwalsh5. It will not work then. You don't want to do that. So again, everybody's server is the same. The only thing that's unique is your username and password, and I'm hoping you know that. A couple other things while we're here. I have this public HTML folder. This is where I can put work to be publicly viewed. If I hit back, all this stuff is just mine. Only I can see it by logging in. You cannot. So for the purposes of our class, you will put things inside your public folder so we can see them. One last thing, and this should be helpful to everybody. If you manage to get this connection to work one time on your own copy of Cyberduck, assuming you're able to do this with your own copy on your own laptop or home computer, you can save or really bookmark that setting. Let's see if I can pull that off. Let's see, bookmarks, new bookmark, and it remembers the basic settings for everything, and I can just hit close here. Now the next time I launch Cyberduck, this will be a shortcut which I can just double click, and there is my content. One last thing, if my content is in my server space under my name and then in public HTML, and here it is, and here is an index.html, which if we were to preview, which I assume we can't do directly out of Cyberduck. I don't know if this will work. This is just a basic HTML page introducing you to my portfolio. We are seeing it without any CSS right now. None of that really matters. What I wanted to point out is, what is the URL of this? How do I figure out what the URL of this page would be? Well, I'm going to try this and we'll see if I'm lucky. Okay, so here is Google Chrome. My server is facstaff.elon.edu. Yours would be student.elon.edu. And then it would be /bwalsh5. to get to this file right here, index.html, I would just type that in right after my username and a slash. So index.html. And there is that page we were just looking at. Now again, it looks different than the preview I showed you earlier because no style, no CSS was being applied to it. But this is the URL of a file that is in the root directory of my public_HTML folder, which again is the folder where all of your online content goes. It does not go out here. That's your private stuff. Your public stuff for the internet goes in here. One more point on this. Why do I have all these subfolders? Well, essentially subfolders work as unique URLs, which is to say this is my home page, but if I click on my portfolio, you'll see that we have moved into /portfolio, which is right here. So each one of these folders acts as a unique delineation, basically, on this web server for entirely separate content, which is very convenient. In theory, you could put 100 websites in the same spot. You'll also notice that this folder has a file called index.html as well. That is the file we're viewing here. Browsers, by default, when you send them to a directory, will look for a file called index, and if they see it, they'll show it. And if they don't see it, they'll show something usually you don't want to see. So be sure to name all of your home pages for pretty much everything you make for the web, and definitely every project you do in this class, index.html. And you should be okay. Okay, one other thing to cover here, and that would be uploading content. How do I upload content to my server? Well, the best way to do that would be to create a new folder and then put my content in there. So, in Cyberduck, I'm going to go to the File menu and choose New Folder. Let's see, I am just going to call this Test, because that is all it is right now. Okay, and you can see it was created right down here. If I want to add content to this file, or this folder rather, well, I've got an index.html that I've created. And what I'm going to do is just take that file and drop it into test. You can see that this transfer window opens up in Cyberduck, just indicating that it uploaded. And it should be there. So, do you think you can figure out what the URL would be of it? I think it would be test. Remember, I do not have to enter index.html after this. That is assumed. You can enter it. It won't cause any problems. But you don't have to. Along the same lines, how do I get something from the server to my local drive? Well, that's even easier. All I have to do is pick it and then drag it straight to your desktop and let go. That transfer window will open up again, and you can see it is transferring your content in the opposite direction. This process is normally much faster than uploading content. And that's just because of the way that most consumer networks are set up. They have a faster download speed, so you can watch streaming videos on Netflix without as many hiccups. And they are not really designed for fast upload, because that's only for people like us. Anyways, I hope that was useful and informative to you.